Batman and Joker, mirror images of each other, locked in battle for the soul of Gotham City. Both created by one bad day, yet both took very different paths.
All it takes is one bad day.
Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my theological analysis for The Killing Joke. Since this week we got Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker landing on the big screen, I thought what an appropriate time to go back and look at DC Comics themselves exploring the origins of the Joker. And I'm not talking the animated movie. This is not for that, because the whole first half hour of that movie was kind of pointless, and while the second half was okay, I figure let's just cut the middleman and go straight into the classic comic and do an analysis on that. So, The Killing Joke.
I've been thinking about you and me. About how this is going to end. About who will end up killing who.
Like I said, Batman and Joker, mirror images of each other. I think what keeps these two characters hating each other as much as they do and constantly locked in battle is this. For Batman, Joker is like a mirror. When he looks into that mirror, he sees maybe what he fears is inside of him. Maybe what he fears he could just break all the rest of the way and become. Because after all, he is a dude who dresses up like a bat and beats up thugs in Gotham City. He seems to be towing that line. So when he looks into the Joker, he sees a mirror maybe of what he could be, and he hates what he sees. Whereas the Joker looks into the mirror and sees Batman, and what he sees is what he could have become. The different choices he could have made to have different outcomes, and maybe that leaves him feeling afraid and alone. And so looking at each other in the mirror probably gives them that need to fight each other constantly, and yet they both can't look away. When I'm reading this graphic novel, The Killing Joke, it is incredibly interesting to me to look at the two paths of these characters and why are they so radically different. It's interesting the way it starts, where you have Batman going into Arkham Asylum. And here's what you see first. You see exactly where Batman is. See, in a later panel in this graphic novel, Batman says, how could two people who hate each other so much not know each other? And yet it shows you where he is, that he shows up at Arkham Asylum at the beginning of this graphic novel to try to make peace with the Joker. He sits down and says to him, sooner or later, you're gonna kill me or I'm gonna kill you. Before that happens, I need to know I did everything I could to reach out and change that. He's literally looking to sit down with the Joker and end the inevitable bloody, death-filled outcome and make it a more peaceful outcome. So even though he can't stand this guy, he's sitting down to talk with the Joker to give out an olive branch, to say, let's work together. Let me rehabilitate you. Turns out that's not even the Joker there, and this shows us where the Joker is at the very beginning of this. The Joker has already escaped Arkham, and now he's looking to make his point, to say his thesis statement, which is this: the difference between sanity and psychoticness is one bad day. We are all one bad day away from being just as bad as him. In a way, I feel like it's almost kind of childish when you dive into the character of the Joker, because in an almost a childlike way, he's scared, he's alone, and he wants to prove that he's not. He wants to prove that a character like Jim Gordon could fall in this graphic novel. That if you give them a bad enough day and push them enough, they are just as psychotic as him on the inside and will react the same way he did on his bad day. So he's trying to prove that he's not alone. Now, it's interesting the way they explain his origins in this graphic novel. So what you have is this dude. And I like the way this is written because you never get his name pre the Joker. It's just this guy. This guy who is married to this woman who absolutely loves him and is pregnant with his first child. So the first thing that we see is a man who wants to be a good man. He wants to be a good husband for his wife, a good father for his kid. He wants to be able to support them. We find out that once upon a time, he was a lab assistant. So he actually had a pretty decent job. But he quit that job to try to pursue being a comedian, to try to pursue his dreams. And now he's in this really bad place because he left a job that was good. He's failing at his dreams, which makes him feel like he's failing at being a husband and will fail at being a father. He is in absolute fear. He feels like a defeated failure. Here he is not feeling like a man, talking to his wife like, you deserve better than this. This building we live in smells like cat litter and old people. I gotta get us out of here before this kid is born. I mean, the fear is on him. He doesn't feel like a man at all. So rather than working on that, what does he do? He tries to take the shortcut. Rather than looking in the mirror and seeing what he can fix, he jumps over to the shortest possible thing he thinks he could do. If he can meet with these mobsters, if he could do one big score and make a ton of money in this one score, then he can pursue being a comedian and provide his wife and kid with a better life. So here he is trying to take this shortcut with mobsters. The first place he goes is not the unconditional love of his wife. And I'm impressed. His wife loves him and loves him deeply. And rather than looking at where he's blessed and being thankful for that, he's looking at what he's lacking and he's trying to take the shortcut. So he goes to these mobsters. Now this is where it gets bad, because what's brilliant about this story is this random event. The wife is home alone, but there's like this electrical problem and she gets electrocuted and she and her unborn baby die. It's random. It has nothing to do with the plot of Joker and the mobsters or any other choices he's making. It's an utterly random event that occurred and he lost the people that he was trying to support. But now that he's gotten in with these mobsters, they won't let him back out because now he has no reason to commit this crime and go into this world. He has no reason to do it. The reason was taken away from him, but now they won't let him leave. And of course, it turns out it's because they want to rob the place next to the lab where he worked at, and he knows how to get them through the lab. And what they're going to do is give him the Red Hood and make him the infamous Red Hood. The idea there is to toss him under the bus. So if they get caught or something goes wrong, then they just blame it on the mastermind, the Red Hood, which is exactly what happens. He loses his wife and unborn child. He can't get out of the crime he didn't really want to commit, and now he's being thrown under the bus, and now Batman shows up? No. He jumps over the ledge because he's not going to face Batman, jumps into the toxic waste, and it dyes his skin white, his hair green, his lips red. In other words, a failed comedian who has lost everything is now permanently a disgusting looking clown. And so he just breaks. This is all one great big joke. That's the meaning he ascribes to everything that just happened to him. That it's all a joke, that it's all totally random. Life is nothing but a giant cosmic joke. So he chooses the side of chaotic evil and goes to inflict chaos on the world because the entire world is just one gigantic joke. And that's what he wants to prove now. Not only that the world is a joke, but somebody like Jim Gordon could be just as insane as him. So what does he do? He shows up and shoots Barbara Gordon, his daughter, through the stomach, hits her spine, she's paralyzed from the waist down. He takes awful pictures that a father should never see, gets Jim Gordon to the carnival grounds that he acquired, strips Jim Gordon down so he's humiliated, breaks his mind, and tells him, so when you find yourself locked onto an unpleasant train of thought, heading for the places in your past where the screaming is unbearable, remember, there's always madness. Madness is the emergency exit. So what we're seeing here is the Joker hasn't changed, taking the easy way out. He escapes through madness and continues to take those shortcuts to avoid looking in the mirror, and takes those shortcuts so that he continues to poison his soul. And what do these shortcuts do? They do what the mobsters did. They use him, abuse him, and just leave him out to dry. That's what they do. So what he thought was going to be the shortcut, what he thought was going to be the easy way, turned out to be the worst possible way. The way that he thought was going to be the harder way to own up, to improve, maybe to get his lab job back, the thing that was going to be the harder way turns out to be the better way. And then Jim Gordon doesn't break. He doesn't prove what the Joker wanted to prove. Jim Gordon retains his sanity. And when Batman shows up, Gordon says, you go get him, but you bring him in by the book. We have to show him that our way works, which really is the Joker's greatest fear, because now here comes Batman, and the Joker knows. Like, he doesn't know it's Bruce Wayne, he doesn't know his whole backstory, but for somebody to dress up like a bat and beat up thugs in the middle of the night, they must be a little bit crazy, a little bit insane, right? And it had to have been one bad day that pushed him there. So now here comes Batman, Joker's mirror, where Joker looks into that mirror and sees what he could have been, the alternate paths he could have taken. Even when that pain came upon his life, he still didn't have his choice taken away. He could have made a different choice and taken a different path. He dreads that reflection, and here that reflection shows up. And he's trying to convince him, look, it was one bad day that made you. It's one bad day that made me. Trying to convince him madness is the true way to escape. And yet Batman continues to show him that's not the case. What does Batman do? Batman looks in the mirror of his greatest fear, of maybe what's inside of him, of maybe what he could become after another bad day. And what does he do? He offers to help rehabilitate him, to once again put an end to this fighting, to the blood, to the madness, to the death, to stop the inevitable end. Yet again, Batman looked in the mirror and he made a different choice. Rather than acting on that fear, he acted on what he knew to be true and what he knew to be wise, even acted against probably the rage and hatred he was feeling, and said, I can probably help you. And what does the Joker do? He says, nah, it's too late for that. Again, retreats within himself, going away from this lifeline of salvation that is coming to him. For if you listen to the word and don't obey, it's like glancing at your face in a mirror. You see yourself, walk away, and forget what you look like. But if you look carefully into the perfect law that sets you free, and if you do what it says and don't forget what you heard, then God will bless you for doing it. It seems like the harder job that Batman is doing, looking into that mirror and seeing the Joker staring back at him. But rather than hiding his face away from that reflection, rather than running from it, what does he do? He realizes when he looks at it who he wants to be. And that's what he acts on. Rather than letting that reflection of the Joker fill him with fear and he run the other way, he picks the quote-unquote harder path and acts wisely and knows who he wants to become. Whereas the Joker, taking the quote-unquote easier path, continues to hide away, trying to forget what he looks like. One of the most interesting lines in this graphic novel is the Joker saying when he's talking about his origin story, sometimes I remember it one way and sometimes another. If I'm gonna have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. So this whole thing could be a figment of his imagination. It may or may not be his actual origin and how he fell. Brilliant writing for DC to give an awesome origin story to the Joker, but then leave it back up to mystery of, could this have actually happened? Could this be the thing that actually made him? Or could this be a figment of his imagination? He's that crazy. But what it shows you is he keeps trying to forget his own reflection. Whether this origin story presented is real or not, it doesn't matter. The point is he won't look in the mirror. He won't look at what's going on. He tries to forget himself and escape reality. He wants to escape reason, and he abandons it intentionally for madness, for the shortcut. And all that shortcut does is it continues to abuse him, to rip him up and tear him to shreds. And yet it's that very thing that he continues to escape to. Jesus told the story that the wise man is somebody that listens to his words and obeys them. They're like somebody that built their house on a rock. When the rain and the storm come, then that house will stand. Now, the foolish person hears Jesus' words and doesn't obey them. They're like somebody who builds their house on sand. So when the rain and the storm comes, the house crumbles. The common denominator is we live in this world, so rain and storms come. The bad days come. The question is, do we build our house on the rock or do we build our house on the sand? And Jesus was saying, if we look into that mirror of the law, we look into that mirror of his word, and we do what it says, then we are blessed for it. We have built our house on the rock. But if we run from that reflection and try to forget it, then we are building our house on the sand. One way or the other, the storms of life will come. And sometimes as Christians, we try to ascribe all kinds of crazy meaning to it. We try to be like, well, God caused that to happen because look at the greater good that came. Or God, we try to be nicer, allowed that to happen. But I think the truth is Jesus said, no. In the world, you will have tribulation. That's him being honest. The world is hard, it is fallen, there are good days and there are some bad days. But then he adds this, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So if we take our shelter in him and build our lives on him, the storm and the rains will come. But when they come, we'll still be standing. To me, that's the difference between Batman and the Joker. Batman is that wise man. He looks at his image in the mirror and he makes those wise changes and obeys the law of life. Even though he's chaotic good, look, the picture is he's obeying that law of life, and rather than bringing more chaos and destruction on the world, he's seeking justice and fighting corruption. And the Joker falls, continuously running away, retreating in himself, and it destroys his own soul. So what did you think of The Killing Joke? Are you excited to see Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker? Let's talk about that in the comments. While you're there, hit that subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Hit that bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next movie review, theological analysis, ranking video, trailer reaction, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.